Hello everyone, and welcome to your video introducing Cramer's rule. So Cramer's rule is useful when we have a systems of equation problem, and actually it's really useful when we have a big system of equations problem, because the bigger the problem is, the more variables there are, and the more variables there are, the more time consuming it is to figure things out. One of the difficulties about using the combination method that we've learned before is that you have to solve for all three variables, right? You can't just skip ahead and say, I just want to solve for Q. I don't care what P and R are. You can't do that. With Cramer's rule, you can do that. And so this is going to be the first video which explains how to go about doing that. Well, first of all, you should know what Cramer's rule says. Cramer's rule says that for any variable, so let's pick P, you can calculate P by calculating the determinant of P and then dividing it by the system determinant. So P equals D sub P over D. Now you're thinking to yourself, what? That makes absolutely no sense. I don't know what any of those letters mean. I know, don't freak out. I'm just telling you that this is what Cramer's rule says. That if you want to solve for P, you do this. If you want to solve for Q, you do this. You do D sub Q over D. If you want to solve for R, you do this. You do D sub R over D. Now, I know you have a lot of questions about what all these different letters mean, and we're going to get to that. But first, I just want you to see Cramer's rule says P equals D sub P over D, Q equals D sub Q over D, and R equals D sub R over D. That's all there is to it. Now you would think that if that's all there is to it, that means I would stop the video now, but you would be wrong. I want to show you how to calculate all these different things. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to rewrite all of these equations, but we're going to take out all the variables. So we're going to do 2, 3, 1, because there's one R, 128. Okay? And then we'll do 1, 2, 1, and 82. And then we'll do 3, 5, 1, and 180. Okay? That wasn't hard, right? The hard part is that you have to write neatly. I mean, you have to line everything up. You have to put everything in the right order. You can't go mixing your numbers around or anything. But that's the first step. All right, so now the first thing that I'm going to teach you is how to calculate D. So D is these numbers here. Not these, because these came from the other side of the equal sign. Not those, but these are in D. And so you would write it like this. You would write 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 5, 1, and then you would put these humongous lines around the whole thing. This is called the determinant of D. D is for determinant. So this is the determinant of that system. All right, excellent. So far, so good. So what about the determinant of P? What would that equal? Well, I will show you. So D sub P is going to equal this. You know that this is all your P values, this is all your Q values, and this is all of your R values, right? That's the way it was lined up here in our system of equations. So if we want to figure out the determinant of P, then what we do is we take our P column and we substitute in all of these numbers that came from the other side of the equation. So we would write, instead of 2, we would write 128, and then we would keep these the same, 3 and 1. Here, we would put the 82 in over here, and then we do 2 and 1. And here we would put the 180 in instead of the 3, and then 5 and 1. So these numbers all stay the same. And again, we put these big, huge lines around it. And that's it. All right, so now, see if you can follow along at home. We're going to calculate the determinant of Q. D sub Q equals, so here's our Q column, right? So instead of these Q numbers, we're going to put in these numbers over here. So we still have a 2, but then we have a 128, and then we have a 1. Here we have a 1. Instead of the 2, we put in an 82, and then we have a 1. And for this one, we have a 3, and then we have a 180, and then we have a 1. Ta-da! And then we put those big lines around it. Okay, this is your last chance. This is your last chance. D sub R. We'll put all of these numbers in place of our R column. So we'll be left with 2, 3, 128. 1, 2, replace that with 82. 3, 5, and replace this with 180. Put the lines around it, and you're done. Okay, that's it. So if we wanted to calculate the value of P, we would say, all right, well, it's D sub P, so that's 128, 3, 1, 82, 2, 1, 180, 5, 1, make my lines a little bit longer, divided by 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 5, 1. Because this is D of P divided by D. And that is all there is to Cramer's rule. Now I know that you're looking at this and you're saying, but what in the heck does this mean? Yeah, well, that's a different video. Right now, all you need to know is how to make these charts.